recently, you've seen the events that's going on with Karmelo Anthony. I spoke on it last year briefly. Stuff like that, I try not to harp too much on, and I don't want to drag it out. And I definitely don't want to be one of those people that try to talk about it every day and have a new angle and right really pushing for content because I think a lot of people are grifting. But I do want to speak from understanding. When I made my video last year, I said that I understand what it's like to be in his shoes because I was an undersized kid and I was a guy that went through a lot of things socially that kind of shaped my ideology and caused me to carry weapons to school. I had a knife I carried to school and I carried it to events such as basketball games, baseball games. I also had a pistol, when I was 17 that I would carry. Never took the pistol to school, but I definitely had it. I took it inside my job one time, really just showing it to people. But I understand what it's like to be volatile and what it's like to be pushed to that point to where you feel like the next person that tried me, I'm gonna show them what it means to try me. So I understood all of that. But you have to call a spade a spade. I understood how volatile and violent my mind was at that point in time, just from things that I had been through. That being said, I have to assign. I don't look at the situation and say that deserve his state of mind. I tell people that all the time. So I can't look at Austin Metcalf and say that he deserved what happened, but I can say that I understand how his actions put him in that position. So you have to assign responsibility and accountability both sides. His actions on that day put him in the grave. Whether we feel like the force was excessive or necessary or not, his actions led him there. He could have taken a different path. He didn't. So he is where he is. Now the same thing with Carmelo. He could have taken a different path. He didn't. Now he is where he is. I think both of them, both of their actions led them where they are. Nobody's innocent, both guilty. The thing about it is that we reach such a point in our society in Black America where we cannot be logical about situations and be honest with ourselves. Everything's not racism, everything's not rigged, everything's not, the system. It's just a spade is a spade. You could say that there were no people of color on the jury, and so that was a setup. But I can honestly tell you that there are a lot of people of color out there that feel the same way that the jury did. So there's no guarantee that if there were people of color on the jury, that the result would have been different. The only thing that would have been different is that now you would have had people of color attack and say, "Oh, you're a coon, you're a sellout, or you're this, or you're that," because they use their logical brain and not their feelings, and they made an assessment based off of the available facts. And now they're a part of the victim. I mean, they're a part of the the cult. They're a part of the problem. So would you have really been able to accept the result if there were people of color on the panel, specifically meaning black people? Probably not. Why? How do I know this? Because you can't accept the truth that black people that think like that are telling on the internet when they're speaking their feelings and saying, "Hey, he should have been guilty." You can't accept it then, so you wouldn't have accepted it on the jury. With the appeals process, I knew that it was probably going to get denied, and I feel like it was for the better that it got denied. I felt like if it had gone back to trial and they pulled up all the information that he had, it was a lot more damning on him than it was on Austin Metcalf. Metcalf had some things on him that it was bad. And you have to look at, okay, well, how old was he when these things occurred? And what did it have to do with that day? You don't know Metcalf's mind state because he did, but you cannot assume a mind state for him. You cannot assume that when he went over there, he had racial motivations or that he was trying to do anything other than what was going on. He can't speak for himself. With Carmelo, you have messages that are very incriminating about his mind state, about weapons, killing, wanting to shoot his girlfriend, licking the blood off the blade. All of that stuff helps build a case of probability about his situation, even going on that particular day, the morning of when he sent the message. That can lead to premeditation. I felt like if it went back to trial, it actually would have been worse. And he probably would have gotten life. Now, the thing that people don't understand about this is that now that this information has been submitted to the judge for consideration for a new trial, it is a part of the documents. It's a part of his docket. So now, more than likely, he's going to do the whole 35 because I don't think any parole board is going to let him walk in 17 years. I think in Texas, you got to do at least half. I don't think that they're going to let him out in 17 years or 20 or 25. I think that they're going to make him do the whole 35 years. And that's unfortunate. I think that we have to look at it from a standpoint of if if your daughter was dating a guy that was seemingly stalking her or had said things such as I'm gonna put bullets in your chest, or how many bullets would you like in your chest, or all these things that was allegedly in Carmelo's text files, and then he killed someone, would you really want him free? There were a lot of people talking about the fact that he didn't have a criminal history. That doesn't matter. If a man writes about his fantasies of sexually assaulting women or sexually assaulting minors, or being a pedophile, but he's never been convicted of anything, and then he finally acts on that, you're not going to care if he had never been convicted of any crimes or he didn't have a criminal history. You're going to use all of the information you have about him against him. You're going to say, okay, you had never acted on your feelings, but clearly you've had these feelings for a while. And so that actually makes you a sick person. The fact that you were thinking about this stuff, it was building up, it was leading to it. Every person that's ever been convicted of a crime at one point in time had no convictions. And just because it's your first conviction doesn't mean it's your first crime. A lack of a criminal record does not mean a lack of criminal activity. So we have to be logical. A lot of times I understand the feelings, I understand the plights. I spoke on it on here before that I have my own feelings, reservations when things happen, but I have to put my feelings aside and say, hey, let me look at the facts. Let me try to be logical. Let me be reasonable. I don't want to be knee jerk. It's not to rain down on a kid. As mentioned, I've been that age before. I understand what it's like to kind of be in that mind frame, but I also understood the consequences of my actions. And I also understood the road that I was headed down. And the fact that for me, the only reason I probably hadn't killed someone at that point in time was because I had people around me that were my community that stopped me at certain points in time when I had dead set in my brain that I'm about to do this. And in one point in time in particular where I had every intention on stabbing this guy, because him and his friends had jumped me some days prior, and I had been looking for him. Rode around with guns looking for him one night, couldn't find him. Carried a knife all around campus when I was in college, bumped into him. Saw him outside the cafeteria, walked straight up to him because I'm about to, hey, it is what it is. He turned around, he saw me, he apologized. He said, man, I just want to apologize for that night. I was beside myself. There's no excuse. Dot, dot, dot. Now I got to make a decision. In that moment, I made a decision to let it go and walk away from it. And that decision is why I'm here. So I understand that my life could have been completely different than what it is now. But a lot of it had to do with the people around me. I remember a situation where a guy and I got into it and I pulled out a blade and I went to stab him. And one of my friends that was there, he grabbed me by the arm and it was holding my arm back so I couldn't get to him while they pulled him off. Like while they pulled him off to the side to separate us. And it was a bunch of guys standing in between us to not let me get to him. So I can't say it's always been under my own power. But when you have that kind of information about you that's that incriminating, as bad as what we saw about Austin, uh, whatever racism or whatever he had in his past, it was that much worse for Carmelo. They had a 75-page documentation on him. 75 pages of information, text messages, logs. And we got to stop making up all these scenarios. Or it was Xbox, or it was this game, or it was that game. Listen, sometimes you just got to accept the truth for what it is. Call a spade a spade. If you cannot do that, we have a far less likelihood of a chance to be able to be involved in some of these jury panels, because they're going to think that black people cannot put their feelings aside and be logical in situations concerning other black people, especially if it's a potential race issue. So we do ourselves a disservice. We do ourselves a disservice, and then we'll turn around and say it's racism as to why there are no black people on the panel. No, they don't trust us. Look at how we're talking online. Look at what we're saying. When you have people openly admitting, if I was on the jury, I'm a hang the jury. Ain't no way I say guilty. Okay, congratulations. They watch social media more than you know. They keep tabs on everything. I keep trying to tell people they watch it. So all this information you're putting out there is feeding the system. They say, okay, well, when things like this happen, we can put people of color on the panel. Just won't be no black people. Not unless we talk to them thoroughly and really have a belief that, okay, they can be okay. But then you have people getting online saying, I would have faked and pretended so I can get on the jury and then throw the case. That's not going to do anybody any favors in the future. It's just not. So you want me to be real? I'm gonna be real. It's bad. It's a bad situation. I pray for the young man. I really do. I hate that his life went down that particular path. But at the same time, maybe it's the path that it needed to go down because you don't know what could have been down the road. You have people that make it out of one situation, a year later they dead. So maybe this was the saving grace that he needed. We don't know where his life was headed. You know, we just don't. And I look at it from the optics of as a father, if I had a daughter that was in that situation with a young man she was dating and he went on to do something like that, and I look at it from a point of reason and understanding how the things you write and the things you say can absolutely be held against you, we have to be realistic. And calling people like me coons and sellouts and whatever else is not going to get you any closer to the truth. It is not going to change the verdict. It is not going to change the outcome. And it's not going to help anybody in the future. Get that? So you can call me all the names you want. My job is to be honest. My job is to have tough, uncomfortable truth talk. The things that you don't want to talk about, the realities that you don't want to face. And I don't want to put on a clown nose and all this other stuff and dance and flip and become a character to get my point across. I'm not here. It's not a children's birthday party. I'm not here to try to entertain you while I teach you something. We have an adult conversation. We have an adult talk. So prayers to that young man. I really hope that he gets the guidance that he needs from behind bars. Hopefully, in 17 years, they will let him out, or maybe 20. Do I feel confident about it at this point in time with everything that they have on him in that particular docket? I don't feel too confident about it. People say, the high profile lawyers, they came in, they took over the case. Look, you got a lot of people out there that will take cases just for the recognition and the money. And then they can say, well, we tried, knowing that it's a failing effort, but they'll say, well, we tried. We did all we can do. It's the system. And they're going to keep pumping it in your head. And they knew all along that this is bad. It was for his best interest from the beginning that stuff didn't make it to the trial, because there was far more that could have been used against him and his mentality on that day than it would have been for Austin Metcalf and his mentality on that day. And that's just the bottom line.
The truth does not require you to like nor accept it. It can be tough and uncomfortable, existing on its own merit, independent of your feelings and residing outside the frameworks of your mind. For some, the truth is freedom, and to others, confinement.